Hey guys, for my February 23rd DVD update, I talk about all the DVDs and Blu-rays I've gotten over the last 2 weeks or so. Now, one thing I wanted to try, and Brendan tried this as well, is I want to see like a test. Everyone that's watching this video right now, click the thumbs up video, click the like button, however you guys refer to it as. I just want to see too, because sometimes it's hard to know who is seeing my videos from, the update feed and things like that. So definitely, give it a thumbs up, just so I know, and just to see how many people can actually thumbs up the thing, just to know. I also definitely leave a comment or, and let me know what you guys think of my reviews, and I would love to hear, too, what you guys think of the movies that I'm reviewing. I want to try and, make a mention of this more often. But, now under the update, I have a lot of really cool stuff to talk about in this one. This is going to be a longer one, because there's a lot of cool stuff. The first one from Universal is Silent Hill Revelation 3D. Now, this one, the first thing I want to say about this is this, in my opinion, is one of the top 3D movies, I would say. Like, this movie has the whole time, especially when you go to Silent Hill, the ash, because Silent Hill's always on fire and, being set afire. And there's ash coming out the screen the whole time. It's kind of like, in Hugo, the whole time when he was going through, like, the train station and the tunnels and things like that, there was little specks of dust coming around. This movie does very much like that and really makes great use of that. Now, this movie is a follow-up to this first Silent Hill film, which came out, I think it was like 2000, I don't remember exactly when it was, but it was like mid-2000s. I kind of liked the last one, but it wasn't like my favorite. This one I like so much better. I think it's a creepier movie, and the movie's about, the girl from the first movie that got away. Her mother went to Silent Hill to get her back, and it's her and her father, and they're always on the run because the characters from Silent Hill are trying to bring her back because, no one gets out of Silent Hill. So she gets to a brand new town with her father, and when she's there, she meets this kid in school that really seems interested in her, is kind of following around and bothering her, and the same time, her father ends up being kidnapped because she's tracked down to this place, she's found, so her father ends up getting taken back to Silent Hill, so she has to go and try and rescue him. So it's like kind of like what the mother had to do in the first movie. It's also a great sequence before she goes in the mall, which I really love this sequence when it kind of becomes like, she's at a regular mall and then it becomes kind of like the hell version of the mall, the Silent Hill version. So that's like the demonic clown and the one character coming at her in the mall and the elevators, and I really thought that was a great sequence. She ends up getting back to Silent Hill, so it's her there trying to, get her father back. And the other sequence in this was great, was the stuff at the carnival. I always loved that kind of stuff. And this just really, like I said, worked in 3D, was very creepy. And I really would recommend this one. Like, if you want to watch a really creepy one, and I wouldn't say you'd have to have seen the last one to get this one. I really think this one pretty much stands on its own. Now, I've never played the game, so I don't know, from what I heard, though, this takes parts of Silent Hill 3 as well. The next one from Warner Brothers is Argo. It's up for Best Picture, and I think Ben Affleck's up for Best Actor. I'm not 100% sure, though. And this one is, now, hopefully I don't screw up any of the details of this, but this is about a group of, during a war is going on in Iran, and a group of people that are kind of at the American, I'm going to say the thing is wrong here, but there's like an American embassy or a group of people that are in this American building there, and the Iranians come to take over the building. These people end up getting away and hiding out with the Canadian ambassador at his house who lives there, because the Iranians have nothing to no problem with the Canadian group there, so they end up going and hiding out with them. And Ben Affleck's character is going to try to figure out a way to get these people back. So he ends up coming up with an idea, to make this fake science fiction film, to go there and, act like he's scouting the location and do all these things to bring these people back. And, my favorite characters in this were John Goodman, Alan Arkin's stuff with them, and they're, playing Hollywood tycoon characters that are taking this thing very seriously and know all the ins and outs of trying to make, because their characters really do make these kind of low-budget science fiction films. So their stuff, I really like that. John Goodman has always been so good in everything, and, I always think of him every time when I think of him for Matinee for some reason. But this is a really good movie, though, about, Ben Affleck did a really good job, and, directed this as well, just going there and, putting this thing together. You know, Clea DuVall from, you know, But I'm a Cheerleader, and faculty's in this. This is just a really good, well-done movie. The next one, this is one of my favorite movies. It's from Warner Brothers as well. It's the Christopher Guest film, Best in Show. This is, you know, he made a number of these improvised films where, you know, they have like the basic plot points, and it's kind of like Curb Your Enthusiasm, where the whole movie is all improvised. You know, they just have the ideas they have to get across the scenes. You know, he did this, Waiting for Guffman, you know, Mighty Wind, which I think was the last one was like one about making the movie, which had some funny things but wasn't as great. But this is about the, like, dog show, you know, that goes on, you know, and this is about following around the group of these different characters. And, you know, it's just kind of like a kind of done documentary style, you know, interviews. But then it's not all documentary style. It's kind of like mixed with how it's done. But, you know, if you've seen the dog shows, it's so perfect. And so there was just the stuff with the characters. This is a very funny one, following around a bunch of different characters going to this dog show and all the kinds of problems they get into. And my favorite stuff is with Eugene Levy and Catherine O'Hara, with you know, not having the money for the hotel and what ends up happening, and, you know, everybody who's, you know, in comedy pops up in this thing. This is one of the earliest movies I remember seeing Jane Lynch in, and Jane Lynch is great in this. This is definitely one that I would recommend, you know, really funny improvisational comedy film, and out of all the Christopher Guest ones, this is definitely my favorite ones, and it has the features from the DVD, the deleted scenes. There's a bunch of good deleted scenes on this one. The next one from Sony is The Untouchables, and this is the one my parents had talked a lot about this. My parents and brother talked a lot about how good this one was, and this was really, you know, it even says, you know, dares to resist its charm on the back, and, you know, it really was a touching, charming movie. It's about a guy who is like a multi-millionaire, and, you know, lives in this great mansion and has all this money, but he was a number of years back, they never exactly say how long ago it was, but he was involved in an accident, and he's paralyzed and cannot move at all. And, you know, the movie opens with him, you know, looking for a new person to take care of him, and basically, you know, take him out, feed him, and things like that. And the you know, it's the interview is going on. The one guy ends up going in and coming into the interview with no intention of getting the job because he has a criminal record. He comes from the streets. You know, he was in jail, and, you know, doesn't think anyone's going to hire him. And the guy really seems to like him, and he likes him because he's not the kind of person that talks to him any differently. He makes jokes with him, and, you know, he doesn't act like there's something the matter with him. So he ends up hiring him, and the movie's about their relationship and friendship with, you know, him finally starting to be happy because this guy is taking care of him, and they're going out places. They're, you know, taking him out in his car that he thought he would never drive again, and, you know, talking to this woman that he's, you know, writing letters back and forth to, and it's just such a well-made movie about these two people, definitely like a character study film that is so well done. And, you know, just absolutely love this one, and, you know, it's one of those kind of ones, you know, you will cry to, but I really thought this was a great one. And, you know, and I just like the whole concept of it. I thought it actually, you know, really made light of a situation that, you know, normally would be played up to be really, really sad, and they put a lot of comedy elements in it that really worked. And this is one I would really recommend. The next one from Sony as well is Playing for Keeps. And this is with Gerard Butler, and Gerard Butler was a soccer star, you know, years back. And, you know, this is 10 years after his last, like, major stardom thing, I think, you know. And it's him coming back to be with his son, and, you know, because he's recently divorced, and he's coming back to his son, and he ends up coaching his son's soccer team. And it's, you know, it's kind of, you know, I kept thinking kind of like Ladybugs. It's really nothing like Ladybugs, but, like, that was the only kind of movie I could think of when I was thinking of, like, a kind of like a soccer movie like this. There's also Kicking and Screaming. This one, though, is one of those kind of movies I wasn't sure if I was going to love it, but it really was a pretty, I actually kind of enjoyed it. And it was Gerard Butler basically trying to, he has no money, he can't really pay his rent where he's staying, and he's just trying to get his son back because, after the divorce, the son kind of, stepped away from him and really wasn't very interested in him. And, the wife is going to get remarried. It's also about him, on the soccer team, and all the women are all kind of becoming like obsessed with him and throwing themselves at him. So it's all these kind of situations that he's getting himself in with all these women that like him. And, I enjoyed this one, and I thought that Dennis Quaid in it, who was kind of the father who was, paying him, to make his son do this and giving him a bunch of money to have all these things happen on the team. I don't know. I enjoyed this one. And the next one from Magnolia is Deadfall. And this opens up with Olivia Wilde's character and Eric Bana's character. They are in the run. They just robbed a casino. So they're out in the road. They end up getting in an accident. And, the car, the driver dies, and they end up having to go out on their own. Because a cop had come on the scene, and they are in the accident. Eric Bana kills the cop, so it's them out in the woods, and Olivia Wilde goes a different direction. Eric Bana's like, "It's not safe. Here's your half of the money. I'm gonna call you, so you go this way. We're gonna meet up later." And then you see a guy getting out of jail, going, calling his parents on the phone, and he was a boxer who something had happened, and he was in jail for a number of years. He goes to try and get the money that he was never paid for his last fight, and there's an altercation with him and the promoter who owes him the money. And the guy starts hitting Eric, hitting the guy's character, and ends up falling down on the ground. And the guy's like, it doesn't know if he's dead or whatever. So he ends up going and, running off and going to his parents. And it's kind of like a movie that kind of ties all in between these characters. And, Olivia Wilde's character ends up meeting the guy, who was the boxer. And because, like I said, the Eric Bana and Olivia Wilde's character went different directions, and ends up meeting him, and then they get in the car together and start to kind of like each other. So it's this whole kind of thing about them trying to find, the cops trying to find who killed the cop in the beginning, and, and this is all set during this terrible snowstorm. I thought this was actually a pretty good one. Very good writing in it. Not a whole lot to say, because it really was just sort of what was going on, was them kind of hiding out, and, all these different things like that going on. The next one I got from Magnolia is Sushi Girl. This one I really, really liked. This movie, though, is about Noah Hathaway's character. It's about a group of these characters who were in a robbery, and the only person caught was Noah Hathaway's character. And Noah Hathaway, this is his first film in a long time. He was from The Neverending Story and Troll. I always really liked him, and he was really good in this. But he was a character who was one of the only people caught in this robbery. And he ends up being brought back to, this house that, that's kind of like where there's a woman laying there, because it's like Sushi Girl, because she's laying there naked with sushi on her. And, it's the place, basically the group of people that runs this place, the robbery, was Tony Todd's character. And Tony Todd was really good in this. There's also a bunch of different, James DuVall is in it, Mark Hamill is in it, and this character, which is very much like the Joker character, the Joker voice that he does, come to life, and he steals the show in this. He was so good in this. I would love to actually see him play a real life, Joker character in like some kind of Batman skit or something, because he was good in this. I really loved him in this. And, it's basically, the idea is, though, Noah Hathaway's character had ended up getting, the diamonds where they robbed the place for these diamonds, they never had found them. And they're basically bringing him back there to torture him to get the answer to where these diamonds are. So Tony Todd's character has this timer that he's setting, and he sets it for 3 minutes. And every 3 minutes, these guys are basically beating the crap out of Noah Hathaway's character to try and get the answers from him. And it's got some of these dialogue scenes in this which are so good with Tony Todd. Tony Todd, this absolutely, because some movies he's only in it for a little bit. He's like the star of this thing, has these great dialogue scenes, just love this one. You know, I absolutely would recommend this one so much. Just such a great, I don't know, I just really love this one. The next one from Magnolia as well as The Coalition. This one was alright. Didn't really like this one too much. I mean, it was alright. It was about a group of these guys, and they're all friends, and they basically are kind of like sleeping around in the clubs and like with all these different women, and the women that they have been cheating on kind of come up with like the idea of trying to find a way to kind of mess up what's going on for them, and trying to screw around with them and causing issues in their life and things like that. I just didn't really love this one very much. The next one from Millennium Films is Spiders 3D. This is a really fun 3D spider film. The 3D in this was great, like really good, and this was shot in full 3D. But it's about this Russian satellite that has crashed to Earth with these spiders on it, and it crashes in this, the satellite ends up falling down into the subway, and the spiders all get out there, and the spiders get you, bite you, they end up like growing in your stomach, and there's some real cool stuff with the spiders in this, and I thought the, effects were really good, because, I mean, the 3D, really works with these effects, and these things are really coming out pretty good, I thought. And, it was fun to see one of these kind of, fun, like, spider disaster kind of movies in 3D like this. And, it's about them, in the city down by the subway. So I always love movies in subways, like Mimic had some stuff, and, it was all in the subway. And it just was a fun movie about, them, they have to try and find the queen and put the queen back with them, and it's them kind of trying to get the situation under control, and then the army really wants to try and like use these spiders and make weapons with them. These spiders can have basically superpowers and are growing and continuously getting bigger, and it's basically them trying to self-contain them, and it's just a fun end of the world kind of spider film. Another movie that was in subways that was cool was the Cloverfield sequences, but this is a really fun, well done 3D spider film. The next one is out from New Video, and it's Grave Encounters 2. Now, what's funny is I'm talking about Grave Encounters 2, but Grave Encounters 2 starts with me talking about Grave Encounters 1. So that's a pretty cool thing. So if you're watching this, you'll see me, the opening of it, me talking about my next DVD I'm going to talk about is Grave Encounters. So it's kind of cool. The movie opens with a montage of YouTubers talking about the first film. So it's like and then it has a clip with me and a bunch of other people, and then it has the main actor in the film talking about the film, and saying how much he hates it and things like that. And he has the idea in this movie to go to, because he is kind of investigating it and believes that there may be some truth to this movie. So he ends up with his friends going to the the nut house where it was filmed, and trying to go there and go in there and see what happens, and taking his cameras, setting things up, and seeing if there is any truth to this, because nobody from the first movie he can find. Everybody sort of seems to be missing. The host of Grave Encounters is gone, and in this movie they're talking about the first movie like it's a real movie, and and like this has nothing to do with it. And I like that way of doing it. It's kind of like the way I wish that it goes the way that I wish Blair Witch 2 would have gone. But this is a really good one. I really enjoyed this one, and very creepy. I thought the first movie was extremely creepy as well, and it just works. Compared to some of these other kinds of films lately, this was really well done. The next one from New Video as well is The Hollow, or just Hollow, and this is a found footage one about, and it was a different setting, because there hasn't been too many found footage films. I can't think of really any that were in like the English countryside. It's a group of friends that are going, out to stay in the house where one of their grandfathers had recently died, and when they get there, they find all these notes and things, because the grandfather, I think he was like a priest or something like that, and they end up going there, finding all these notes about these people who had died on this tree in the movie, and it was these couples who were all hanging themselves. So it's a creepy film about them, kind of going there, and I mean, not a whole ton of things happen in this one. It's more atmospheric and kind of like sounds and things like that. But it's them, found footage style, showing the tree and talking about the tree and then hearing all kinds of crazy sounds and things like that in this countryside. Like I said, it's a different kind of setting for these. Setting it out in the country like this. An amazing tree they found. Like the tree, which I'm pretty sure was like a real tree, was huge, like creepy. I kept on thinking, if Ernest would have seen this tree, they would have made a tree house in this thing for sure, and there would have been a troll under it. Like Ernest Scared Stupid. Like I kept thinking that when I looked at the tree. But this is a different found footage film. The next one was one I really like, and it's sinister. This is a seriously creepy one. And I said it was one of my favorite movies of, 2012, and it really was a well-done, creepy film. I loved Insidious, and I like these kind of ones when they're done really well. And this one was, and it was Ethan Hawke and his family move into this house where, a family had, died previously, and they all had hung themselves outside, and Ethan Hawke's character ends up finding this upstairs in the attic, these tapes. Because Ethan Hawke's character is a writer writing about like true crime and about people who have died and things like that. So he's there he knows people have died there, so he's trying to kind of investigate this, for his book. But the family doesn't. But he ends up finding these movies upstairs, which are all these movies of different people being killed. And by watching these things, the character in this movie, the bad character, that he's like sort of seeing him everywhere, and it's just a very creepy one. A lot of people complain about the ending to this. The ending wasn't perfect, but it really was a very creepy, at least I found it very creepy. The next one from BBC America is Africa, and it's one of their new documentaries. This was so well shot. Like there was, it goes to all the different places in Africa and shows, the rainforest and things like that, but they're using new cameras now to do these. So when they used to do like the sped up footage of like time lapse and stuff, it always looked kind of a little unnatural. With this, they've got it down so well, and they can get so close on these things now, and it's super HD, but like right up on like an ant. And I don't know what they're using now, and how they're getting these things so close, but it's amazing footage. Really great stuff on these. If you like nature documentaries and then ones that are really well done and talk about all the different things, this one was seriously a well done one. The next one, and I got a bunch of these. I picked up. I had to get these ones from the Scream Factory line. Now, the first one I got was The Nest. Now, this one out of the three I got, this is one of my least favorite ones. It wasn't bad, but I kind of thought when it wasn't the stuff with the roaches, it wasn't as great. But it's kind of about these, town that's overrun with roaches. And there were some weird lines in this. Like, the one line, one guy's like, well, I wish you were a woman. And then there was this, I wish you were a man. Then there's one line, one thing when the guy's getting killed in a dumpster, and I swear the guy that's supposed to be in the dumpster, because they kind of just show the dumpster shaking, is sitting on the side of the dumpster, and you can kind of see his face, because they didn't crop it out right, so you see the guy there. But this was a kind of a fun, town overrun with roaches. I was kind of thinking of Squirm when I was watching it. It's not a terrible one, but not like absolutely perfect. I like the stuff though when the roaches could kind of, take who they killed and kind of make their own version of them, like clone them. That was a cool aspect to it. The next one, this one was a really good one. This is one that I had never seen before, and I always used to see the VHS cover when I was a little kid and was always creeped out by it. Like, I always thought that, like, as a kid, that it was, like, real footage of people in, like, prisons getting killed. I don't know why I thought that. But I remember as a kid going down, the horror aisle and looking at some of these things and being so creeped out by them. Like, I wasn't allowed to watch them as a little kid, but I would always look at the covers, look at the back and everything, and kind of wish I could watch them. And then didn't really start watching them until like the 5th or 6th grade. Pretty much the 5th is when I started with Return of the Living Dead. It was like the first like R-rated horror that I watched. But this is Prison. Now this was such a cool one. The warden in this movie is played by the dad in Son-in-Law. Like, I always loved that actor. And it's about this prison. They're remodeling it and they need to move the prisoners. They move them to this old abandoned prison where someone was executed, electrocuted there years before. And the prisoners have been moved there, and they're down there digging the basement. They end up opening up where the guy, the closed off room, and letting the kind of spirit out in this prison. So all these crazy things are going on, and people getting killed in these awful, there's some great death scenes in this. The guy who was the dad from Bill and Ted is in this, and he has this barbed wire death scene, which was one of the characters that was on the cover, which creeped me out. This was such a well done movie, and I don't know, this is one I recommend seriously. And these are favorites of mine, which were only ever out on bootlegs. These were the bootleggers are having to take these right now and just dump them out, because you would always see these at horror conventions, on the tables and everything. People had tons of these, and it's the double pack with TerrorVision and Video Dead. And these are ones that people have talked to me about a lot, and they're finally out on Blu-ray, and I'm so glad they're out. And TerrorVision is about a family that puts in a satellite dish, and he ends up getting a signal from space, and this gets something happens in space, and the signal gets sent to this and lets this garbage monster free in their house. They kind of can, if the TVs are on, can come and and it's eating people, and it's just really good. And the woman from Eating Raoul and House of the Devil, and Mary Warnover, I think that's how you say her name. She's great in this as the mother. And the daughter is from Bill and Ted and Last American Virgin. Just a really fun, and also John Grease, Uncle Rico is in this. And I totally forgot that going into it. I'm like, Uncle Rico's in this. And I never remembered that. And they have documentaries on this too, and I found out that Cleve Hall, from Monster Man, did the effects in it. And Video Dead was another one that I had always just been a bootleg one you could only ever see, and it's about these zombies that come out because of this old TV. Really great ones though. Really love these movies. Now the next one from New Video is For Ellen, and this is Paul Dano's film. Is the lead in this, and Paul Dano was from There Will Be Blood and Looper. He has that real that awful death in Looper. Oh my God. That stuff with him and Looper was so upsetting, the way he died in that. But, and he dies early, at the beginning of the movie. But, For Ellen, though, is about him, and he's kind of, a musician, and he kind of reminds me, his character, of someone like a Bear Margera character, or the guy from Him, that kind of a look. He's got that kind of look. And, he's had CDs out, but, he's going through all these kind of problems with his wife who's getting divorced. So he ends up going there to sign the papers. And, the thing with the papers, that he, sign them, is that he has to give up the ability to see his daughter ever. Give full custody to her, and basically would not be his father anymore. And he's reluctant to sign these. But at the same time, if he doesn't, he's risking losing his money, which he needs. And John Heder plays his lawyer in this. John Heder from Napoleon Dynamite. Really liked him in this. This is a different movie for John Heder, because I thought it was a little bit more out there subject matter for him. Was because he used to be kind of I can't do that because that's a little too adult and things like that. And this is out there for him to be in. And I thought he did a really good job as this kind of lawyer that doesn't really know what he's doing and lives with his mom. And he's a nice guy though, and his character is very nice, compassionate character. And this is basically just him, Paul Dano's character here, and wanting to see his daughter, and just a following Paul Dano around. It's a character piece. I really like this, and he really carries the movie really good. I've been a fan of Paul Dano for a long time. Now the next one from Lionsgate is the Mooring. I think that's how you say it. And this one, it was funny when I was watching it, I was thinking, this really looks 70s, and it really has a 70s vibe to it. It was reminding me of Last House on the Left, the original. And then I looked at the making of, and the director was saying, oh yeah, we used old lenses that were 30 years old. And I was going for Last House on the Left, so I was oh, I thought exactly what he said. And it's about a group of these girls that are it's a group of these girls that are all kind of addicted to the internet and texting, and have all kind of run into problems because of their addiction to it. So they end up going out on this trip where, without cell phones. They take away their phones, take away their technology. And it's them going out on a boat and, to go camping. And, the movie had opened, though, with a teenage girl, out camping with her parents, getting pulled and taken in by someone into his boat and kidnapped. This is 10 years later, this movie takes place. But these girls are out there, and, when they're out there, on the boat, at night, they, get out to go, set up camp, and they end up seeing, another boat come in. This guy and this woman are in there, and they're fighting and arguing. The one girl yells, makes a joke about it, and the guy says, "Shut the fuck up, I'll kill you," something like that. And basically, this guy's not the kind of person they wanted to do that to, and is hunting these girls one by one. And, the guy who was the killer in this was from the Honey, I Shrunk the Kids. He was the oldest kid in that. And I hadn't seen him in anything in a long time. He was really good as the kind of crazy killer guy after these girls. I mean, the thing with it was kind of different is with, usually with horror movies, a lot of them, this one is kind of like you were hoping these girls get away. Some horror movies it's like, oh yeah, I love the death scenes. And this one you're kind of like, really, it's not one you can be like, oh, I love seeing these girls get killed in this. It's like, no, it's not that kind of one. You're like, oh man, you don't like what's going on. The next one is from Vinegar Syndrome Company. It's a new company, but there was one on. It's a drive-in collection. There was one movie on this called Savage Water, which was so amazingly bad. And they even talk on it's like a commentary on this too. I was listening to, and great commentary about I think it's like a horror podcast group on it, talking about this movie that had never come out. Savage Water had never come out on video in the U.S., never had a theatrical release, only ever came out in Europe and places like that. And it's about these people going for a trip on the river, kind of like, Deliverance, but it's a whole group of people. It's like 20 people or something, and they're all on these boats, and there's way too many characters, and everyone's wearing, the guys are wearing these short shorts that were so short, I was like, oh my god, and it was just crazy, the whole thing that's going on in this, and characters are coming and going, and, one per time you see someone in the ship, in the boats, then all of a sudden they're gone, then all of a sudden the one person's in the other boat. There's all kinds of crazy, confusing things going on in this, but they're all getting, people are sort of dying off here, and they're dying off in these really weird ways, and they're all, getting stoned, and I really think they probably were, the way it looked. This is just such a weird one. It also has Death by Invitation, but for, this one, I would definitely recommend it for Savage Water if you want a really weird, so bad it's good, insane movie. The next one I picked up, hadn't got to look at it yet, but it's Family Matters, the complete third season. This is one, definitely pick these up if you're a fan. So hopefully, they can, Warner Brothers, sees enough attention to continue to put out the other seasons, because I love the, Argo, and I'm glad that, Jaleel White has been, doing a lot more stuff lately, because, I like him in the Total Blackout show, and he's good in that. But, if you love the Family Matters show, this show I grew up watching, really love it. Just hope all the other seasons come out. The next one I got from E1, this is a movie that I watched so many times as a kid. I mean, as a kid, I had the pillowcase, I had the stuffed animals. I mean, this was one of those movies that I had watched. I think around the same time, I was always watching Felix the Cat, the movie, which I always regret not buying the DVD of that. It was just one that I had watched so many times, and this was Babar the movie. And this is just a really well done kids movie about the Babar character, following him as a kid, because I think there was a show of this too I watched, but this is something that I had not watched or even looked at in probably 20 years. But a really, really good kids film. Just, it's one of those kind of things, it's nostalgic that I just really wanted to watch it again. The next one, this one, I didn't love this very much, and it was Beasts Beneath. It was in Griffith Park years ago, and kind of like these people, one guy had died, and the money had always been they didn't know where the money was, and it's this guy though, it's kind of weird, and it's one kid there's a kid in this, supposed to be a teenager, but I think he was like way older than that. But his father was like telling him the story about Griffith Park and about, you know, what had happened there with the family and the one money that went missing, and they thought it was down in a well or something. And then Dad's saying, well, later on, there were these other people there, and they were trying to find the money and went to the cave, and it's just this dad telling this kid this story, and the kid's like, so what happened next? I don't know, just something about this, I didn't like this. I mean, I like the one guy like Homeless Jack or Homeless Joe, something like that. Like his character, he was like this kind of like old hippie guy that kind of lived in Griffith Park. It was just sort of like hanging out there, and like no one really cared that he lived there. He just sort of like lived wherever he wanted in there. And he was kind of like telling him that he has visions and dreams about like the beast that like haunts the Griffith Park's treasure and all that. So it's these people trying to go and get it, but just not perfect. There's nothing really the matter. Is just I didn't love that one. The last ones I got from Mill Creek, and the first one is a fun 80s show. It was kind of an obscure one that never really heard many people talk about this one, Beverly Hills Teens. This is the first volume of it, and I really liked that Mill Creek has acquired the rights to a lot of these kind of lesser-known 80s shows. I would love to see, you know, the Potato Head Kids, and, you know, hopefully that one comes out. And like the Popples and some of those kind of things, especially the live action Popples movie. But this is one that I always remember the toys, and I remember having a bunch of them. I think I actually still have one of them, and it's Street Sharks. So most people probably don't even know that there was a show of this. This is the whole series. Most people only really know the show, the toys of them. But anyway, though, thanks a lot for watching. You know, I'll be back in probably 2 weeks or so with the next update. Like I said, thanks for trying out the test, on this one, giving it a thumbs up, seeing how many people we can give it a thumbs up. But anyway, though, thanks a lot for watching, for subscribing, and all your support, guys, and I'll see you later.